Rich, don't you say a word. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. Our business indicator series is, as you know, a good opportunity to connect and network with fellow alumni and community members. I just want to start out this morning, as I do with all of these, and acknowledge our sponsors, Bellwether Community Credit Union for the Manchester portion of our series, and of course the Letty Group helps us out with this version of it out in Portsmouth. So you'll see in your program that the series will continue here in August. Our next event is June 17th at the Wentworth Country Club, and will be an after-hours format. We hope you can join us out at that Seacoast event as well. We're firming up plans for those of you that like to venture up into the great state of Maine with a Portland Sea Dogs event this summer. Rumor has it has something to do with Star Wars. All the players are dressing up as Darth Vader, or is it just 80-10 that's going to take them on the lightsabers, or whatever they call them. And the Fisher Cats as well, you know, there's more to come on that. Before we begin this morning, just, a few updates of the university. Tom ran directly into this morning when he tried to park over by a Caterpillar truck there. We're digging up the parking lot here. That is not going to be a new building going in. Once we're not building the building, we're actually ripping all that and putting in some green space. So it's a campus beautification, and it really is going to make the main campus quite special. For those of you that have not had the opportunity to go into our new library, it really is a knockout facility there too. It's become really quite popular with the students. It's tremendous traffic, so it's nice to see that investment working out. And then coming up, we'll soon be breaking ground across the street from the main campus, down the road, next to the overspill parking lot, which is going to be a building that will house career services, alumni relations, and admissions. And that is not cobbling together things of these are random offices that need space, let's just put them all together. That is really a theme where statement, if you will, of how the university is viewing the life cycle of the students, the admissions, the career services, and the lifelong commitment with the Office of Alumni Engagement. So those are some of the larger projects that we've got in the offering. So without any further ado, I would introduce you to Beth Brito, our Executive Director of Career Services, moderating this panel. Welcome. Thanks so much.
Good morning. We're excited to have you all here to talk about something that has been a tremendous program here at the university and an innovative program that really has taken off and been very successful. Really under the idea, the theme of sales, and as we talk about sales, and all of you I know in all of your business transactions and everyday kind of interactions see the importance of the sales process on a regular basis. So what we want to talk about today is really about that entrepreneurship that is tied to the sales process, and talk to you about some of the innovations that are happening here at SNHU, as well as from our guest speakers, some of the things that they do in their regular business that really speak to those types of things. We have a tremendous panel put together for you this morning. We have Ed Ithier, who is a graduate of SNHU. He has over 25 years working with Xerox and has, in that time, really been quite nimble and entrepreneurial in his own sales career, moving from different types of products and customer base, and he's going to talk a bit about that. Micheline Yancey is a professor here, also a graduate, and has really taken a tremendous initiative in the past few years, really creating and launching a sales program for our students. So what she's going to be speaking with us about is really the sales program and how that evolved and the types of successes that they've seen to date. Mary Hogan is one of our most recent graduates, just graduated in our last recent ceremony, and she's one of the first graduates of that sales minor that's come about here at the university. She has taken a job with a local alumni-owned company and is working in the app space, so we can talk a little bit about that innovation and some of the ways that her sales preparation here at SNHU have helped her to be successful in a very short amount of time. And we have Jim Narrow, who's joining us as well. Jim is also an alumni of the university and works with companies to think about onboarding and about their own sales training programs and how to be more nimble and you know, thinking about strategies for success there as well. So I'm going to let each of them talk a bit more. Micheline, if you want to get us started, maybe you can give us a framework and a background for the sales piece.
Absolutely. First, thank you so very much for having me here and this whole panel. These are people that I've been working with very, very closely for a while now. I want to begin by just a very brief history of the sales program. As probably many of you already know, in the undergraduate courses here, sales has been taught here for many years. I've been teaching sales here for 20 years. But it wasn't until 2 years ago where I had attended a Sales Educators Academy down in Florida that I saw that universities all across the nation were incorporating these sales programs. And it just opened up my mind in regards to what was possible, what we could do. And so I came back from that back in 2013 and said, we've got to have a sales program. So I developed a professional sales minor. The minor it encompasses 5 courses, beginning with Intro to Professional Sales. It has Advanced Professional Selling, Salesforce Management, Business-to-Business Marketing, and then students get to choose one of 4 courses, and one of them is a sales internship, which is highly, highly recommended. From there, I had 2 students who at the time, Mary was one of those students, who co-founded a club on campus called Professional Sales Association, which also has been extremely successful. Also incorporated in the program was going to sales competitions. So we began in the fall of 2013. Our first competition was at Bryant University. We placed 3rd as far as team goes, and also in terms of individual competitors. To my left here is Mary Mogan, was part of that, and of course she got the award for that. And then in this past fall, we went back, and this time we got the team championship for the Northeast, and it was out of 11 universities, out of 96 students, we had two students who made it in the top 4. So very, very exciting. And then we went to nationals both in the spring of 14 and in the spring of 15, and we placed 35th out of 67 universities. So SNHU's name is now on the map in regards to its professional sales program. So why was it so important for me to begin the professional sales program? I began, before teaching, I was in corporate and I did marketing and sales. And sales had always been a passion of mine while I was also teaching the marketing courses. So to have a minor, to have a sales program, was a dream come true to me. And of course, with the support here at SNHU, it has grown exponentially. I'm very pleased to talk to you about the kinds of skills that myself and my colleagues here want to develop in these students. So first of all, the program is a selective program. Students take the professional sales course, the first one. They do a role play at the end of the semester, and it's B2B sales, and they do the role play, and I have sales professionals and myself, and we assess their role plays, and we basically assess, do they have the skills that they would need to have for us to continue developing them? Is sales something that they we would see them doing as a career? And so after that, what I do is I invite them and I say to them, you have to have at least a C to then email me and then ask me for an interview. So I then proceed to interview them, and then they either get accepted into the program or not. So it's a selective program. And the reason it's a selective program is because the purpose of it is to create a pipeline for the community, for these students to get hired by people in the community. So the skills that they have are very important. So the very first one that I look for is coachability. Can they be coached? Do they have the right attitude? Are they open to positive criticism? So that's one of the very big ones, because I've had these 3 here with me today. They've all helped to coach these students to get them ready for competition, and in essence, get them ready for their sales career. So I look for coachability. I look at professionalism. Now I understand that they're undergrads and some of them are sophomores, right? So they still have obviously some maturing to do. But do they have that sense of professionalism? And we're talking how they dress, how they behave, again, their attitude. I look at their leadership skills. Are they someone who could be a leader on campus? Because the Professional Sales Association, and I'm assuming Mary might talk a little bit about that as well, because she co-founded it, they help to help them to become more professional. And when they go to a job fair, it is critical that they dress the part and they behave the part. Some other things that we look for are preparation and planning. As we all know in business, we have to plan, right? And so are they prepared for their role plays? Another area is their research skills. One of them, Ed and I have talked a lot about, is making sure you use Hoovers or any other databases that we have here on campus to prepare them so that they're able to research industries. What are the trends? Who are their competitors? So they're prepared in that. Persistence is something else. We all know that in business, you're gonna have your highs and you're gonna have your lows. How do they handle that, right? How do they handle failure? Do they pick themselves up, dust themselves off, or is it someone that just cannot handle that? So that's something else. There's so many other things I've tried. Communication. Can they articulate well? Not only, right, orally, because they do need to listen to their buyers and articulate properly, but also their written skills. Another area is their listening skills. We talk about the 80-20 rule, that as a salesperson, you will speak 20% of the time, you will listen 80% of the time. Adaptability, can they adapt to different situations, right? Listen to the buyer and adapt so that they are able to offer the solutions. Probing questions, we use the spin technique a lot. Are you able to ask the right questions to understand? Reiterating, right? Restating of the issue. Finding a solution, so critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, all of those come into play. And I think, and there's so many other things, and how do we do that? We do that through role plays. We do that through, I do that through teaching them in the classroom about different books that are out there. We talk about the challenge of sales, spin techniques, different training. Of course, I have Jim who does training as well, and Ed is with me as well. So I make sure that first I train them, and we look at the arts and the science of sales. So not just the science, not just the sales process, but how to handle different personalities, right? Buyers have different social styles, different personalities. How do you adapt to that? And so the role plays that we do in class, we do them in class, and then in the advanced sales class, they do the role plays and they get videotaped. And they have to do a reflection piece. So they watch their videotapes and their videotape role play, and they have to tell me, what are your strengths? What do you see as your strengths? What do you see as your weaknesses? What will you do differently next time? So a lot of the role plays, I use a lot of guest speakers in my class. This is how I got to know Jim and Ed, and I have so many others who are alums. They come into my classrooms. I try to get them from different industries. I work very, very closely with the Career Development Center. Your center has been such a blessing to us, because students, at the end of the day, it's all about placement. At the end of the day is, can we get these students to graduate and have the skills necessary to go into an organization and perform? Because as we all know, sales is very performance-based. So I very much count on the Career Development Center, and I'm actually very pleased to announce that our first graduating professional sales minor class has graduated in May, and Mary is one of them. All 5 have been placed. And that's my goal, 100% placement for these students. So very, very, very exciting. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you. And I think that your point about it being an art and science at the same time is a great point. And Jim and Ed have been instrumental in bringing their depth of experience to this program. Ed, maybe you could talk a little bit about your background, some of the best practices that you've seen in your own career, and how you've used that in terms of helping to coach students, but also be successful in your own transitions that you've made as a sales professional.
First of all, I want to thank each of you for coming this morning, but I wish, before I started my career, I wish I had a foundation like this, and that's one of the reasons I got involved. When I graduated in '87, I think I took one class, and it was sales and persuasion, and I didn't have any idea really how to, I didn't really want to go into sales. So I worked 2 years at AIG in marketing. And I knew at the time, I said, this was great. I was a communications major, so I was doing okay. And I had the opportunity to get to interview for Xerox. Now, one of the things, I've been with Xerox now for 26 years, various positions. I'm presently a sales program manager for one of the flagship products throughout the Northeast. where I handle the marketing, the sales, and the budget and everything for the products. But to get there was a journey in a sense. I didn't have the foundation. And luckily I was able, through some skills that I had developed at New Hampshire College at the time, to get involved with Xerox, excellent training program, and began to really formulate a plan in terms of the different stages in which I wanted to build my career. Since that, when this program became available, when Michigan came to me and said I wanted to start a sales program for students, I thought it was instrumental to do so, because if you think about it today, there's a lot of things, especially the students today, what don't they do? A lot of times they're very good from a technology perspective, but they don't talk. I always say that everyone's a salesperson in a sense in terms of marketing. And what's nice about this program is that it takes students out of their comfort zone. At Xerox, we do a lot of things that take people out of their comfort zone in terms of coming out their shell. So what the students have to do is they do role play, so they're not used to speaking. They have to think, and they have to really look at themselves and look at their customers. At Xerox, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with CEOs of high-level companies and really understand processes and really understand what's value. I think one of the things that comes out of this program is really teaching students when they come out not only how to sell themselves, but really how to look at what's important to other customers. What's important, what's the value that they bring to someone or a particular company. At the end of the day, it's important, I think, that students get placements. We all agree. Has to grow. As a parent, I want my child, if they're coming to any institution, I'm paying money, I want to know that they're going to have a job. Why this is important, or what we've seen from a success, is that we are providing students an opportunity to be in situations where they probably would not be at. As Micheline stated, 5 students graduated this year, they all had jobs. Last year, Mary competed at Bryant, finished 3rd, and she had vendors, companies already pursuing her. That would not have been available if she wasn't in this situation. So I think in terms of my experience in terms of working with them and going through and working with Xerox, is that we've been able to formulate a partnership with SNHU. We have a lot of other people involved. There's still a lot more to be done, but we've been able to form a partnership and show students that alumni do care. I think that's the other thing, because schools are great, but you need alumni. And I think what we also show students that the alumni are there for them. They're willing to come back and help them. I was very fortunate that I've had a number of people in my life that were former alums that sort of helped pave the way for me, to give me some guidelines. And I think what we're doing today is hopefully providing a foundation, not only from getting students to be successful, but getting that success back to the college and to other students and giving back. So I hope that someone answers the question.
Thank you. Bennett, can you just speak up a little bit louder back for us? Sure. Great. And so Jim also joined the program as a coach this year.
Yes.
And was hoping that you could speak a little bit about just how you're being a new member of the coaching team and your own background and training within the sales field, how your career has kind of, what you see in terms of trends, and also how you bring that into the classroom in this particular.
Absolutely, yeah. First off, the competition and the coaching, I mean, that's what I do for a living. I get paid for that. Is coaching new hires, providing sales training, and coaching new hires. But when I was invited to coach these students for the competitions, it gave me an opportunity. I came from the technical side like Ed. I didn't really want to be in sales, but I ended up being in sales and really enjoyed it. But I had been in technical management, so I had some management skills. So ultimately I ended up in sales management. And I think the job I loved the most in the corporate world was being a first-line sales manager and developing and coaching people. You know, just being in my office, having them come in, let's talk about this account, let's talk about this problem, how we're going to go after this market. So for me, I was almost like reliving my first-line management experience. And the thing I can remember from my management days is when my people, you know, not just made their quota, but broke into new markets. And, you know, we just did a great job. And I happen to have been one of the best regions in the country at the time. So it was kind of like the same thrill. And one thing I learned, and there was a joke I told the students once, because I also had coached my kids' soccer teams. You know, losing is all about the players and winning is all about the coaches. So that's a joke. It's because it's the other way around. You know, a good coach, you really work to bring the best out of a player. And this is why I'm not a sports person per se, but I love watching sports. And I'm not going to give any specific examples because we're all passionate. But the way a good coach gets a top performer to really go to their limit. And I think that's what our job is. So when I went to the first competition, I had no idea what to expect. And when the kids finished, actually, we had 3 in the top 5.
We did.
Even though everybody talks about, you know, the reality is we had 3 in the top 5. That's huge. And, you know, we can only bring them to a certain point. But my feeling is, I know Connor came in second, right? He was better at the competition than our last role play up in the library. And that to me was rewarding. Because now it's like when you teach a kid how to ride a bike and you take off the training wheels and it's all about them at that point. You can sit back and be very proud about how you help them get to that point, but you got to say, hey, it's not about me, it's about them. So very rewarding. So what I do in my job now, back in the 90s, I brought in a sales methodology into a company. This was back in the days when not a lot of companies were using sales methodology, but that was sort of, even though they've been around, Spin's been around for many years, and there started to be more behavioral research around selling, and then taking that behavioral research and turning it into training programs. That was huge. A lot of people don't understand that that happened around the 80s. I think up until that point, everybody thought you were either born a salesperson or you weren't. So I think the big transition now has been sales as a profession. It's a skill you can develop, and if you focus on developing that skill, you can be very productive, and companies can be very, you know, proud if they spend the time to do that. So what I do now is I focus on developing selling skills. I have training programs where we do that, a lot of new hires, experienced people. But the other thing I do, and today, because you have Salesforce automation, you have marketing automation, you have all these automated tools, it's a very sophisticated environment. So I also spend a lot of time with companies linking the training, because it turns out, you know, once you get to a company, they have their own go-to-market strategy. So you have to be very precise about the skills that map into that go-to-market strategy. And then all the infrastructure you put in place, all the tools that you put in place to support that. But I wanted to point out one thing, I'm not sure how much more time I have. There's a statistic that I have, 64% of reps today being hired, it takes them 7 months to a year to ramp up. So a lot of companies are really focusing on onboarding infrastructure. So they realized it wasn't enough just to put in that go-to-market strategy, put in the other infrastructure, but now they have to pay attention to how do you actually onboard these young people. And then there's a lot of move to onboard a lot of kids right out of school. My biggest client, most of the kids will be in the workshop in July. You know, they're in their early 20s. They just came out of school. They might have been chemical engineers. You know, they might have been economy majors or whatever. Now they're going to hear about sales for the first time. So this program, and I'm really happy to see that there are more schools across the country. And my other alma mater, Purdue, by the way, is a sales program.
Yes.
Is, to me, will provide a base for students, for new hires as they come in. Because even though I'm in sales training, I think what you do is very important, because when I train people, we feed them from the fire hose. And if they have no foundation, it takes longer for them to go to on board. So now when schools are providing this training, to me, it's going to provide that foundation, which is going to make it easier for companies to ramp people up. And, it's all about time to revenue and results. So I think it's great stuff.
And really, as a product of this program, you had a few weeks to test out your skills. If you could talk a little bit about your experience in the program and some of the things that you're seeing in not only a new role, but also working within a new technology and startup.
Sure, absolutely. So, some of you guys have mentioned how they weren't sure if they wanted to be in sales or could be in sales or something like that. I did want to be in sales. I wanted to be in sales ever since I was little. The best day of my life was when my dad broke his keyboard and he gave it to me, and I stole my little sister's desk and I brought it next to his because he had a home office. And I looked at him and I said, "Are we ready to get those contracts signed? I'm ready for my commission." And he looked at me and he was like, I have 6 daughters that play house and 1 that plays office. And I think that one is going to be in sales. And this program actually made that dream possible. If you asked me 4 years ago, you will be starting your career while you're still finishing up your finals, while also working your work-study job, while also doing an internship, I would have told you were absolutely out of your mind. But I did it anyway. So starting my career has been, I hit the ground running. I went from 0 to 60. I worked for a startup company called Adored. And that was also something, if you told me 4 years ago you'd be in the technology industry selling an app, I would tell you, you're out of your mind. But it's amazing. Every day is different. Every day, all of a sudden, is 6 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I have to go home now. But it's amazing. It is, again, fast-paced. It's an environment that I was trained to be in without even really knowing that I was ready to be in it yet because of this program. One thing that, so a little bit about what Adored actually does. It is a customer loyalty app. It's basically a 1-part customer loyalty tool, 1-part marketing platform. So that was really cool because it combined my minor with my major. And it combined absolutely everything I learned in these classes. I get to practice every single day when I walk into my office and when I walk into a potential merchant's business. So that has been absolutely phenomenal. So again, it's an app. And I'm going to small to medium businesses and telling them why they should take this on as a part of their business. Software as a service is incredibly interesting because it's tough because I have to say, oh, it's an app. Okay, well, why doesn't everybody just download it and we'll get there? No, you should take it on now. So every day is a challenge, but I love that. And the reason why I love it so much was because I was ready to do it. I did not go through any training for this job. Again, it's a startup. I was employee number 6 or 7. And the owner of the company basically looked at me and said, well, hope you can learn on your own because I don't have a program for you. I don't have a process for you. I would like for you to make it on your own. So that was really interesting because I thought of it like another one of Professor Anstey's projects. I was like, okay, so let's start with some resources. Let's do my research, figure out how well our market is doing right now. What's the likelihood that we will do well in this market? Once I learned that, I shared that with the rest of the team, and then I continued to build on that. The things that we have learned in classes, I am doing every single day. Getting out of your comfort zone, walking into someone who you don't know who they are, you just figured out what their first name is, and now I have to make them purchase something from me. Like if I didn't have the skills from these classes, I wouldn't be able to do that. In addition to that, I've learned how to manage as well. I just recently hired 3 interns, 3 SNHU sales interns. Well, 2 are sales and 1 is marketing. Through these classes and through the sales program and sales club, I was able to find these students. There was a couple others that wanted to take it on, but I wasn't sure if they were ready to be in a startup environment because there is a lack of process in place and things like that. So taking on these students, I referred back to my Salesforce management class where we learned how, constructive criticism, how to manage a team, and learning to manage 3 interns has been such a great experience. And not only that, all 4 of us that all work kind of as a team from, as my interns and me as a merchant acquisition manager, we literally every single day refer back to one of Professor Anstey's classes, every day. Do you guys remember, oh, this is how we approach, this is how we say, needs identification, this is how we get them to talk, this is how we refer to that 80-20 rule. So that's been really amazing because one thing, I remember being a freshman and I worked at Telefund and I called alumni and I would ask them about their major or what they did, and 9 out of 10 times someone told me I didn't do anything that had to do with my major. And I I was like, well, then what am I gonna do? I was getting all nervous. I'm like, great, I'm going to college, then I picked the right major, and I'm one of the lucky ones that gets to say, I definitely use my major every single day, morning to night, I am using it. And so are my interns, which is amazing because those are 3 more people that won't say when telephone calls, they won't say, oh, I did nothing with my major. Being a part of the program and being able to use it every single day has been one of the most influential moments of my life because it just made me so much more of a better person. I get to sit up here with phenomenal people and tell them about my story that literally just ended about a week ago. And I'm starting this new chapter in life, and I am so thankful for having this program because without it, I wouldn't be as successful as I am, and I wouldn't be growing every single day as much as I am. So anybody that partakes into this program or into this school, I thank you so much because it affects me literally every day. And not only that, it affects my team every day. There's more than just me that's working full-time from SNHU. It's actually everybody except for the owner and the other co-owner. Everybody else is from SNHU, and we run that entire office, which is really great. So this is a phenomenal school. This program is the best, literally the best. And I wouldn't have this career without it. So thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm so excited.
We're excited that Mary's made a commitment to only hire SNHU.
Yes. Yes, if it doesn't say SNHU at the top, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. Please go to the other startup down the street. They're our competition.
So what questions from the audience? Are there pieces that you'd like to know more about?
Back in the day, I went to New Hampshire School of Accounting and Commerce, Penny Shapiro, Sister Ann, and his mother, Mrs. Shapiro, was running college. And one of the courses that they had, I don't remember if it was a requirement, but it was public speaking.
Right.
And even though I got in the Army already, that was a tough course. And I was in the accounting program. I went to work down in New Jersey for Entrepreneurial, which is the largest CPA firm in the world at the time. And I came back to one of the alumni reunions, and they had a little presentation. It was about an hour long, and they were determining your personality. And the whole population was coded, brown and blue, green and orange. Most of the work is done by the brown and blue group, and then you have this green group, and a lot of professors and people that create change. I said, oh, that's me, I love change. But then I had my oldest son, orange group. Nothing gets done by the orange group unless they're having fun doing it. But being a CPA in the public accounting business, you need a rainmaker. And you need to understand your personality. You need to, and when you're hiring people, you need to know what you're hiring. And along the way, I went to a lot of sales programs where they determine your selling technique. And mine came out to be low-key pushing. If I didn't get it the first time with you, I kept on pushing. But then there was this fellow, I think he was over near the Exeter area. He would have, if you were going to hire someone, you wanted to know about that person. He would have that prospective person fill out, write longhand, a 4-page something, and then send it over to him, and he would analyze it. And he would tell you whether or not that person was a born loser and he knew it was a loser.
Wow. Tough crowd.
Yeah.
And the next group was, he was a loser, but he didn't know it. And then there was that person that was really successful, but he was going to leave in 2 or 3 years because he just knew he had it. And what you wanted was that fourth group that was successful, would stay and do the job and do a great job for you. So, sales is not just focused on selling. Every business needs people that understand selling. And when I was taking a master's program at Fairleigh Dickinson in New Jersey, they had a fellow came over in his own marketing firm. Said, forget about cost accounting, forget about sales, forget about it. There wasn't anything left but marketing. If you don't do marketing first, nothing else comes. So So there's a lot out there, but like even for some of the other programs, even for not been the sales program, but like a 1 hour seminar on the kind of people you're dealing with, that would be great to have as one class. And there's a lot of things that could be offered to all the classes, all particular majors, that would be very helpful to them in getting out of the road and working against it.
If I may address that, excellent point. One of the things that the Intro to Sales course, right, is specifically tailored to, number one, it's a general education course. So it is a course that anyone across the board at the university can take, right? Whether or not you're in the School of Business. And the reason it was set up that way is for exactly that purpose, is for people to come in, whether you're an accounting major, whether you're communications, whether you are a math major, to come in, take the course as a general education course, and in that course, you learn, first of all, that you are a brand, that we sell, as you said, we sell ourselves every day, right? We are a brand, and so we're all, as Ed said, we all sell. And so I introduced them to sales, first to let them know that what sales really is. So we begin the class by talking about, busting that myth of what sales is, so that they can understand what sales is and how we actually do it every day. We do social style, so we do personality assessment, so they can see the kind of person that they are, what their personality would be like. We also do the color one. I just did that in all of my classes as well. And what's interesting is for the students, remembering that these students usually in that class are freshmen and sophomores. And so when I teach them about different personalities and how to handle them, how to deal with different personalities, a lot of them end up going back home for a weekend or so and they try it out. They try it out on mom, or they try it out on dad. And I say, my husband is an analytical, for example. When my children were growing up, they would come to me first and say, would Dad, do you think Dad is going to let me go out Friday night? And I'd say, you better have the who, what, where, how, and why. He's going to want to know who you're going out with, where you're going, how you're going to get there, right? And so once they understand those different personalities, they go back and they try it out, and they come back to class and they say, you're not going to believe this. It worked. It worked, right? So the point that you're making is a very valid point. So it's a Gen Ed course, number one. In there, what they also do is, as I said, they do the assessment, so they do listening skills. And I actually, when they do their team project, they have a semester-long team project, I purposely put them in with different colors so that you have different styles working with each other. And they actually they elect a leader for the team. And they can switch that leader as they go. They hand in bits and pieces of their written project as they go during the semester. So I can provide the feedback right on the research that they're doing. And each time they have the opportunity as teams to elect a new leader. So each person on the team has the opportunity, if he or she wants it, to be the leader of the team. And they get assessed, that's another thing, they assess each other. So they grade each other on how well they worked with each other. And that's part of their grade. So I have students in there who are hospitality majors, again, different types of majors, but I purposely put that one in as a general education course so that students who need another general education course, they look around and say, gee, what should I take? Maybe I'll try professional selling so I can introduce them to sales.
I want to add a little bit. As I said before, I didn't really want to go into sales when I graduated from here, but one of the major reasons that I love the program is because for that purpose, it allows people that maybe not thinking about sales, that are going to do something else, to learn different skills. So the skills that they learn, they can apply whether you're a hospitality major or accounting major, because at the end of the day, one of the skills that they learn is really how to be comfortable talking, how to be comfortable marketing themselves, what they bring to the table. So Mary's a prime example. She's doing sales, but she's also managing, she's doing a lot of other things. But those skills are sort of built upon based on confidence and based on providing tools that they can go out there and promote themselves. So,
if I can add on as well, having issues with this mic, sorry. But I had my interns actually towards the end of the summer, one of their last final milestones that I want them to accomplish is being able to go out and actually sell a door. I told them that towards the end of the summer, they can go out, pick a potential merchant and sell it to them. And actually, just yesterday, they asked me, what else can we do to better prepare for that to happen? What else can we do to move that timeline along so maybe we do it in July instead of the end of August? And my suggestion to them is so similar to what you guys were just saying. I said, go to your next, family gathering, cookout, friend's house, wherever it may be, find the absolute nicest person you know and sell it to them. Then find the most difficult person you know and sell it to them. The third one is find the most tech savvy person you know, someone who knows, the ins and outs of the tech world, everything about it, and sell it to them. And then find your final person to find is someone who knows absolutely nothing about the tech world, nothing. They're lucky to have a smartphone or something like that, and sell it to them. And their reasoning behind that, they actually answered it for themselves. They were like, oh, we get it. We get why you want us to do that. It's different personality styles. It's different, it's adapting to those environments. It's adapting to your buyer. So I have to say that that's something that we use every single day to prepare them. And it's pulling out of your comfort zone. And if you can sell it to 4 people you know, I guarantee you, you're going to be so much easier off when you have to go to someone you don't know because you've had experience with those 4. So we definitely use that every day too.
All I would add is there's a great book out by a gentleman named Daniel Pink, and the title of the book is To Sell is Human. And if you're interested in different personalities and then what I would say aligning with the buyer, and to reinforce what Mary is saying, it's not so much just about what your personality is, but how can you adjust and recognize the buyer's personality? Because the biggest issue is if you don't understand the buyer's personality, then you don't know how to make that adjustment. And it's a fascinating, the reason why I mentioned the Daniel Pink book is what they end up saying is the best personality is what they call an ambivert. It's not an introvert or an extrovert, but it's that person who can recognize the other person's personality and then align with that. And it's not just for the initial sale, it's for continuing in account management. When you ever meet a new person, you have to spend the time to think about, all right, how am I going to work with this person? And I'll give you an example. I have a guy that I deal with, my biggest customer. He could be an editor. He's so detail oriented. But I would never sell to him because he's not a risk taker. Thank goodness I'm in the account management. So I had to make a shift in dealing with him, and I have to focus on the detail. And actually, when I think about it, I say, okay, I'm putting on my analytical hat now, because he's analytical. When I do the contracts, because he looks at all the details, the T's and C's. He deals with the lawyers, and so I got to do that piece of it. But when I sold to someone who was an advocate, someone very senior, who wanted to make a big change in the company. So you got to be more political. You got to align with people that are more political. So, sales is getting very complicated, I guess the bottom line. Yes. But anyway, it's a good book to read and give you a good, and also there's more specialization. There's inside sales, there's outside sales, and there's teamwork. So, when I first got in sales, you hired you had a hired gun, you sent them out, boom, or her. It's not that easy anymore. So it's just a more complicated environment.
Two more.
My husband happens to be in sales, and I hear all the time that, and he had a lot of training, he's in communications, AT&T, and all of those companies. And he always says he needs to find the decision maker.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, is that an integral part of your training?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the assessment form that I use, I have a rubric for them, right? So make sure that professional introduction, uncovering of the needs. One of them is to uncover the decision criteria, right? The decision process within the organization, who the decision makers are. Should we have those people in the meeting, all right? Do they need to be in the meeting with us very early on? Because the one thing that I want to make sure that the students understand, time is money. You don't want to waste your time, right, with someone who has no decision-making ability, all right, or authority to make that decision. So absolutely, it's critical.
One of the things regarding competition that they, when they go through it, even in the classroom, is really taking a sales cycle from beginning to end, asking the questions, getting to the right person. So the basics or the foundation, again, the benefit for a lot of companies today that are looking at schools that have majors and have students coming out is that they're getting students that already have the foundation of understanding a selling process, how to get to a decision maker, how to ask the right questions. So it is a lot easier to do so because the ramp up time is that much less.
And I would add to, it used to be a decision maker was one person.
Yeah.
You know, prior to Y2K, IT had big budgets. So when you say decision maker now, it's really a committee.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some new research that came out by IDG about the different personalities in the buying environment. And what we advocate is that you look for the advocate or a champion. So, and this is an overriding, what we call a qualifier. So do you have someone who's willing to bring you to other people and share with you the decision-making process, and then actually introduce you to people above you, you know, above them and laterally, and not necessarily below. And then when you think about the full implementation, you know, it's not just decision makers, it's people going to implement, or, you know, how it's going to impact the organization, if there are process changes. So again, it's more complicated than it was, you know, 25 years ago, right, Ed?
Yeah.
I mean, things have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
I can see from my end as well, something that actually these folks taught me was part of the decision-making process is sometimes just the employees. Because a business owner may not be there every single day, but they'll do whatever it takes to make their employees happy. And I actually just recently made a sale because I sat somewhere at a restaurant and I hung out over to the side, had a soda, and actually a bag of chips, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna be here for a while. And I found out which one of the employees was kind of like the leader of them. There was a number of employees working. And eventually I went up to her and I was like, okay, I'll order lunch now. And she asked me if it was part of their loyalty program that they already had. And I said, I used it briefly, but I wasn't crazy about it. And she goes, oh, me too. She's like, I can't stand it. It makes my life so much harder. And I go, well, tell me why. And she continued to tell me about that. And I was like, do you have the owner's business card or do you have the manager's business card or someone that I could get to? And she said, absolutely. And I go, would you like to join in on a meeting with me? I'm going to try to set one up. And I go, if you're not comfortable, that's okay. If you don't want to be in there, do you mind if I quote you on what you said? And she goes, I'm really busy, so I won't be able to make the meeting, but please do tell him what I said. And that kind of was a part of the decision-making process that I really held on to, because if you go to their best employee, they're going to do what their best employee wants, because that best employee, they don't want to lose. And I ended up getting a sale out of that because I told him about that one girl that he is kind of like the pride and joy, the bread and butter of that business, how much she couldn't stand that loyalty program and got them to purchase ours instead. So finding the decision-making process is one of the most important aspects of finding out who influences the decision maker.
One more question.
Well, I certainly want to keep to everyone's schedules, and our panelists will be here for a few moments. If you'd like to come up and ask other questions, you're welcome to do that. Before we close, I do have a couple of points that Christy had asked that I share with you. One is that our next business indicator session will be on June 17th, and that will be at the Wentworth Country Club at 5:30. So I hope that you can travel to the Seacoast and join us for that event. Also, to mark your calendars, homecoming will be on October 16th through 18th, and there's a golf tournament that Friday at Pasquanaway. We hope that you will consider joining us on the weekend. There'll be sponsorship opportunities as well that will help us to raise funds for scholarships that are much needed here. One of the things that all of the folks here also are doing, and one of the pieces that we're focusing on moving forward, is opportunities for mentorship and coaching. And really, as you think about ways to connect with the university, we hope that you'll connect with the folks here, as well as Micheline, as well as myself and other members of the advancement team, to think about your own talents and how those might be influential potential here at the university. So thank you all for coming, and thank you all to our panelists.
Thank you.